Cyrodiil, she is ailing. For centuries, the home of the Empire has been a province of peace and prosperity.
The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion first came out way back in 2006, so it's about time someone gave it a loving remaster. And, wouldn't you know it, there's a group of modders doing just that. The TESRenewel modding group, made up of a bunch of volunteers, are recreating Oblivion completely from scratch in Skyrim's engine. The name of this gigantic mod is Skyblivion. The aim is to introduce Oblivion to all the people who have only ever played Skyrim, as well as bringing it back for fans of the series. And, oh boy, describing that task as gargantuan doesn't even begin to cover what's in store. Here's why you should absolutely care about Skyblivion, whether you've only played Skyrim or want to return to the rolling hills of Cyrodiil once again.
Behind all the beauty, a danger is brewing, waiting for the opportunity.
TESRenewel are recreating the entirety of Oblivion in Skyrim's engine, which means all the quests, NPCs, monsters, weapons, armors, and locations are being painstakingly enhanced and overhauled to fit in Skyrim, along with some new textures, some of which are even 4K. The team are even trying to bring back Oblivion's spellcasting system, but that is proving a bit tricky by the sounds of it. And all this is being done for free. For free. So, the modding group named TESRenewel is who we have to thank for this painstaking endeavour. As long as you own both Skyrim and Oblivion, including the DLCs for each game, you can install Skyblivion once it's released. You'll be able to pick and choose which parts you want to install too. Helpful for anyone who just wants to sample one part of Oblivion, thanks to some good old-fashioned nostalgia, or whether you want to revel in the entire thing if you have a couple of spare 100 hours to play around with. So, what makes Oblivion so special? Like any game, it has its faults, but what people come back to time and time again when they're describing what makes Oblivion so irreplaceable is the quests. From having to fight your way through a painting to stumbling into a village full of invisible people, Oblivion's quests have a tendency to stick in your mind years after playing the game. 13 years, to be exact. I spoke to Kay Rebel, project lead on Skyblivion, about why Oblivion is so important to so many of us. See, Skyrim is the epic game, Kay Rebel told me. You're Dragonborn, you can rip people apart with shouts, but Oblivion is different. It's a classic high fantasy RPG with lush landscapes bursting with colour, weird quests, and plenty of knights in shining armour. But this time around, you're a nobody, so you can really be you, which is one of his, and many other people's I'm sure, favourite things about Oblivion. You're not the Nerevar, you're not the Dragonborn, you're, as Kay Rebel puts it, just a dude in prison, in the right place at the right time, which is a great point to start from and gives you the opportunity to roleplay your way through the game, as there's so much that hasn't been decided for you. At times, those high fantasy elements of Oblivion are even more in your face, thanks to the pure weirdness of some of Oblivion's quests, like meeting Glartha the Wood Elf who's convinced he's being spied on, or the fact that you have to fight your way through a painting. Plus, if you do the main quest first, the guilds actually recognise you as the vanquisher of Maruna's Dagon. In Skyrim, guild leaders and NPCs treated you like the rookie, even if by that point you had massacred tons of dragons, stolen their souls, visited Sovngarde, and slayed Alduin himself. But, in Oblivion, NPCs will chatter about your deeds when they see you running past, meaning that the world around you feels far more responsive and, when it comes down to it, alive. Like in Skyrim, NPCs also have their own programmed routines, which, admittedly, might not wow you as much today as it's become much more standard in RPGs. But NPCs also have impromptu, unscripted conversations. Again, like Skyrim, but this time in Oblivion they can be utter nonsense. But regardless, it's still a nifty way to make it feel like the world goes on alongside you in Oblivion. Part of what makes Oblivion so special is also the way that it does magic. See, in Oblivion, it's way different from Skyrim. For a start, you can create your own spells from scratch. Skyrim got rid of that mechanic in favour of a streamlined spell system, so if you've always thought that your mage lacked depth, Oblivion is sure to satisfy. Because in the Arcane University, you can tweak spells you already know by adding special effects, changing the range at which the spell works, or choosing between improving the spell's magnitude, how powerful it is, its area of effect, or its duration. But anyone with a love for magic, whether you're more into conjuration or just destroying things with destruction magic, doesn't instantly get all the benefits of the Mages Guild. And yes, that includes crafting spells. To get into the Arcane University, which is where you can craft spells and do a bunch of other things, you have to get recommendations from the Mages Guilds in various different towns, meaning there's quite a bit of legwork to do, as well as an incentive to explore the world around you. Basically, in Oblivion, you have to really want to be a mage to get all that done. Another thing that really sets Oblivion apart is the main guild quests for the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, which I will not spoil here as, trust me, you're going to want to experience all their twists and turns for yourself. What I can say about the Dark Brotherhood is that you get bonus objectives when you have to go around killing people, meaning you can roleplay a very finessed assassin if you like, or just go in, stab, get the job done. Each to their own. While he was chatting to me, K-Rebel also highlighted how important that intentionally gloomy introduction to Oblivion is. Set inside the Imperial prison, you have to fight your way through the sewers and the tutorial. Those dingy surroundings couldn't contrast more to your first look at the outside world. There's lush hills and an Ayleid ruin right in front of you, and, as K-Rebel is quick to point out, in Skyblivion it's just the same, but on acid. He told me how the mod has beefed up the surroundings, with all the environments remade from scratch by the way, to make the sky even bluer, the grass even greener, with added wildlife, details and trees. Yeah, I wish I could see it for myself too. As TESRenewel has made Skyblivion's environments from scratch, K-Rebel tells me, the forests feel natural, but there's still an element of fantasy as, by the looks of it, the vibrance is kicked up pretty high. But even if you've played Oblivion over and over again, there's still going to be some stuff in Skyblivion you'll have never seen before. After seeing a Nexus modder recreate some lost quests, K-Rebel told me that the team are restoring Oblivion's cut content to Skyblivion, which wasn't found anywhere in the original game. This includes scripted events as well as some small, fun missions. But that's not all they're doing. TESRenewel are also adding some specially crafted quests created from Tamriel's lore, like the Lost City of Such, which was in a teaser for Oblivion but, for some reason, didn't make it into the final game. Converting the cut content into Skyblivion's ESM has proved easier than expected, but Such isn't going to be a full city with NPCs. Instead, K-Rebel mentioned that they're making it into a big, ruined city that's long since been abandoned, filled with ghosts and skeletons. They're all that's left of Such's citizens. You can explore Such and try to figure out how it became decimated in the first place. As well as restoring Such to the game, TESRenewel have given Oblivion's biomes and regions a bit of a facelift too. In your mind, games tend to be bigger and better than they actually were, K-Rebel tells me. And in comparison to what we're used to today, Oblivion's landscape does feel a bit boring. For K-Rebel, the fact that the landscape was randomly generated really shows, and not in a good way. To fix it, K-Rebel worked with TESRenewel's concept department and level designers to breathe some life back into Oblivion's regions. A big part of that was tweaking the Gold Coast, which now actually looks like a Mediterranean coastal area instead of a bunch of hills. In K-Rebel's eyes, mini-projects like that give the modders a bit more creative freedom, and, I gotta say, K-Rebel really sounded pleased with how the Gold Coast looks now. So, when Skyblivion comes out, I'd make a beeline for the Gold Coast if I were you. One of the things I really wanted to ask K-Rebel is, why is Oblivion so important now? After mulling it over, he said that there's a chance we're not going to get a game like Oblivion ever again. Because back when Oblivion was made, Bethesda was much smaller, so it might have been more willing to take risks, hence Oblivion's occasional weirdness and colourful high fantasy feel. So if you want to experience something truly unique and are playing Oblivion for the first time, or simply want to revisit the good old days, it sounds like Skyblivion is going to give you an experience unlike any other game out there. Those of you who are watching this and have never touched Oblivion before, but are gonna dive headfirst into Skyblivion, K-Rebel has a message for you. Don't watch any streams of Skyblivion. Boot it up, get out of the sewers, don't follow any guides. Basically, just do what you want, go where you want, and see where you end up. Let it surprise you. And that's Skyblivion. The TESRenewel team are hard at work as you watch this video, toiling onwards to bring Oblivion to Skyrim's engine and open it up to audiences new and old. Mind you, TESRenewel are always looking for help, in particular when it comes to 3D art. So if you're a 3D artist experienced in creating architecture, clothing, or creatures, you can head over to their website to see if you can lend a hand. There's a form to fill out and everything, so I'm sure they'd be happy for some help. As for the rest of you, join me in waiting somewhat impatiently for the release of Skyblivion, when we can finally emerge from the sewers and adventure through it until the Daedra come home.